onto it. So this is going to be a two-parter. They literally just tried to cut off my connection, so it means that what I'm about to say, I'm telling the truth. Because people need to know the truth about those smart devices and tracking devices and Bluetooths and stuff, right? So, she got the gun, she went out into that park, and then she made the phone call to say, I want them to know where to find my body. And then looking at the evidence and the fisherman that heard the one gunshot, new body found in the water, the parents talking about the scratches all over the body, the husband hurriedly getting new body cremated, and then making sure that he looked like the victim, making sure that he was seen on in his car and that, so it couldn't have possibly been him. They know it wasn't him. But they need to look at her father. They need to look at the whereabouts of, sorry, not her father, I apologise. They need to look at the whereabouts of where his father was. Because his father was cleaning up a lot of that son's messes, and was known to threaten women and things like that. They need to look at the whereabouts of where his father was, and anyone connected to the woman he was having an affair with. If I go with what I was picking up on, it's to do with his father, and she bought the gun in case she needed it. She bought the gun just in case something was going to happen. She knew something was going to happen. And that phone call that she made, there's something to do with timing there. They need to look at when the man heard the gunshots to when the phone call was made, because either he heard the gunshots first and then the call was made, or the call was made too soon to the gunshots, because the fisherman was saying he could hear a woman crying, and she'd been crying for quite a bit, and then he heard the gunshot and then the crying stopped. And when he went over and investigated and all that, when he eventually found her body and that it was in the water, she would have had to have walked out into the water and shot herself in that, which doesn't make sense. And my line of inquiry was that phone call was AI. They used like AI to, because they did that with me, with Rocio, when I got a phone call and it played my voice back. And then after that, all hell broke loose. Like my phone was draining to the point where it died and I had to get a new phone. And then like all that stuff kicked off. And then a couple of years later, the ghost in the pizza with the gang stalking and all of that. And then my ex gets me locked up. It was like so many similarities of her case happened to me. And I think kind of that's why she came to me. And I'm telling you now, that phone call she made to 911 wasn't her, it was AI. It was her voice in a AI thing, and they need to look at those tracking devices, and they need to look to see if she had any smart devices on her body. And the reason why is that the other hypothesis was, I looked it up last night, and there's tracking devices that you can buy that have access to mind control. You use your mind to activate them. You can use your mind to control them, and they have access to your mind. If the two lines of inquiry I was going down was because people were saying, like, she didn't exhibit any signs of being suicidal. She had a hair appointment set up. She had plans. She was dressed getting ready to go to work. She was called out to that forest to meet someone, and it's got something to do with that man's father. They need to investigate that man's father, where he was, who he was talking to. Look at his calls. Look at the log on his phone of his calls. J.P. Miller's father had something to do with what happened to Mica. That phone call, I'm convinced, was AI. They used AI voice to set it all up. This was all pre-planned. Whenever the victim's spouse makes themselves seen on camera, that's always a dead giveaway for me. They go out of their way to make sure that they're seen. They just happen to be out of town. They just, it's too convenient. So then you have to look at the people around them, and they need to look at his father. There's a connection between what happened to her and his father. And they used AI to make the call, but there's something to do with the timing of that call. They made it too soon, or they made it after she died, or something like that. So they need to rework the timeline. Because the time of when she made that call to when the fisherman heard the gunshot going off, there's an inconsistency there. Like it was made like right after she died, or like seconds before she died, even though the fisherman said that he heard her crying for quite a bit. She'd been attacked. She was shot. She was murdered. Now, the other thing, like I said, we need to look at, if on the off chance, because this was why I was hesitant to make the video until I looked at all the evidence, but she's like, no, you're on the right track, you're right. And it was all to do with AI technology and mind control. But I was thinking the tracking devices in her car, he could have been feeding her mind, telling her to kill herself, telling her to do it. But then when I woke up and I'm laying here thinking about the two dreams that I had, because I realised kind of without, I've realised when I woke up this morning that the woman from this dream and the one before was the woman in that chapter video. And then that's when I thought she's asked for me for help. But she was insisting that, I didn't need to investigate it. Just, I've got a couple of links I'll put in the description box below. But she was like, can you just do it? Like, can you please just make this video? So this is me making the video. So I'm a little bit kind of discombobulated. So I was going down 2 lines of inquiry that I'm hoping will get out to her family. The first one being the tracking devices. Look to see if they're ones that have access to your mind, because a lot of these, they put trackers in cars and that where you can use your mind to drive the car and all that sort of thing. It controls your mind, and if you have access to that stuff, because he was hacking her emails and hacking her Instagram, he knew how to get into all that stuff, so he knew how to work technology, and he had people that knew how to work technology. So he could have been feeding her mind, this is what you're going to do, and without thinking. But the thing is, and this is why I was hesitant to make the video, it didn't make sense to her plans. She was dressed in her work uniform. She had a hair appointment. I mean, he would have had to have ramped it up enough that, from what I understand, when they use the mind control technology through AI, when it ramps up like that, like you get migraines and, nausea, and like you feel unwell, you get dizzy. And she didn't have any of those symptoms. When she was at the gun shop picking up that gun, it was for her protection. She got it and then went out to that park to meet someone. And if she's saying go with my gut, like go with what I'm thinking, and what I'm thinking is his father had something to do with it, and that phone call, they used AI. It was an AI generated replication of her voice. They had access to her phone, which means they either had to be standing there with her when they made that call, or she was already dead, because they had her phone. And her phone and bullet casings and stuff like that were found away from, like, a few meters away from her body, which was in the river. So there's something to do with timing from when the man heard the gunshot and the crying stopped to when that phone call was made. There's some kind of inconsistency, and it's because of the fact that they had to gain access to her phone. She either had to be there with them, and they got into the fight because she was covered in bruises and defensive wounds, which the cops and coroner and that didn't notice. It was the family that noticed when they were looking at her in the casket. She didn't have any wounds on her at the gun shop, but she had them in the casket. So either when she was there, they took her phone, and then that's when they did the AI thing and used her voice to do the AI thing, or they did it after she died. They used some kind of program to use AI on her phone. They recorded her voice and then used AI to replicate her phone, to replicate her voice on the phone when she made the 911 call. And you need to look at his father. His father was involved somehow. And the fact that I had already covered a case like this where a woman had shot herself in the car, Erin, I was going to say McVeigh, but it's not McVeigh. I'll put the link in the description box below. Very, very similar, except with her, I believe that they did use the mind control to get her to do it. But in this case, I think they used AI to pretend that was her voice. But just in case, I'm saying they need to look at the tracking devices, they need to look at AI, they need to look at artificial intelligence replicating things that people are taking on face value, which is why I can't stand AI. They can produce all these sorts of videos and voices and images and that are completely fake, and then set people up for crimes they didn't commit or to do things they didn't do. And with the mind control technology that they already have with like the 5G, 6G towers and that, they will tell you what to do. Donald Trump's even admitted that that's what they do with them, that they can do with them. That's what the CIA have admitted, that's what they do. They get people to go nuts so they can lock them up, so they can remove them from society, so they can blame them for things they haven't done, so they can pull off false flags, all sorts. So if Mica's family are out there and they have access to this is what they need to look at. She did not make that phone call. That was not her. That was AI. They copied her voice. And also look at the tracking devices. If you know what kind of tracking devices she had in her car, look to see if they're the kind that are able to have access to your mind. If she had any smartwatches or smart devices, that have AI technology, her glasses, AirPods, that sort of thing. Look to see if they're the ones that can read your mind, have access to your mind. With the smart glasses and those smart watches that read your heartbeat, that you can tell the Google glasses what to look up using your mind, and it'll bring it up on the screen and blah blah blah. Look into that, because they can feed stuff to your mind. That's my second line of inquiry, but my first line of inquiry, she's saying I'm correct. And that was an AI copy of her voice that made the phone call, and you need to look at his father. I'll put the links in the description box for the Erin. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name right now, but I did a connecting the dots with her. And the stuff that I just quickly looked up, I've got it saved in my bookmarks to do with the AI technology, and how it can control your mind. Because I was thinking, it sounds a bit far-fetched, but then she was insistent, no, you're on the right track. And then when I was laying here thinking about the dream, thinking, how am I going to put this together? I was thinking about the similarities between what happened to her and what happened to me. And then me thinking, that's probably why she came to me. So I'll put links in the description box below. The fact that they cut this off the first time means I'm telling the truth. Every time I'm saying stuff, they don't want me getting out. They cut my signal. And because I'm talking about how things like Grok and Gemini and Alexa and ChatGPT and all of that, they can use it to feed false information to you and control your mind. They can make you suffer from psychosis and paranoia and anxiety. They can affect your heartbeat. They can affect your blood pressure. They can tell you what to do without you even knowing you've done it. It's kind of like, MK Ultra and all that. Well, now it's MK Ultra and AI technology, which is why I don't trust any of it. That'll be why they kicked me off. That'd be why they cut the signal, because they don't want people knowing this stuff, because everybody uses Grok and everybody uses ChatGPT, and you put your voice into it, and the second they have a recording of your voice, or the image of your face, like with what's happening with Grok at the moment, people can make all sorts of videos using Grok, using AI and that, pornographic. They could make it look like you're committing a crime. And they can even fake your voice to make it sound like you're in distress. Or because my ex told them when he rang 999 that I was in a distressed state, and I wasn't even. I was asleep in the bedroom, and then I got up and did housework. When he made that call, I was doing housework. So, but I know that when I got that phone call that recorded my voice back in 2020, I've got the screenshots up and everything. When it was, they were dumb enough to leave the number, and I traced it to an American Army base in Germany, stationed next door to Rocio Rey Núñez Air Force Base, where she was stationed in Germany. And then the number got disconnected. But I've still got the number, I've still got the screenshot and everything. So, yeah, when it rang and I said, hello, it played like this high pitched down, and then it played my voice back. And I thought, weird. And then after that, my battery would drain on my phone. I was having trouble uploading videos, and my connection, my Wi-Fi was slowing all the way down and stuff like that. And then all hell broke loose. So her and I have very, very similar stories, which is why her family need to look into, I don't know, I think there's programs that you can download that will tell you if the voice or the image is AI generated. You need to do that with that phone call. Find out if that phone call was AI generated, because that wasn't her. She had no intentions of killing herself. She was looking forward to having a life without him. She just needed to get rid of him, but he wasn't having it, because he was scared of what she knew about him coming out and it ruining his ministry. because he was a pedo. They had an inappropriate relationship, and so did his father. And I think he was concerned about his image and the things that could get out if she talked. So he was using the same kind of covert tactics and that my ex was doing, to try and wear her down emotionally, so that when he was ready to pull the plug and say, haha, look, I told you she was crazy, he got to play the victim. And that's exactly what her husband did. I did everything I could for her mental health, and I tried this and I tried that and blah, blah, blah. He set the stage. The email that he sent her where he was like, it was about how the doctors said she was bipolar, even though everybody said she exhibited no signs of bipolar. One of the symptoms of bipolar, by the way, is sex addiction. And she didn't have a sex addiction. I know you have bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, but like with the most common form of bipolar, you have like a rampant, because of the hormones and stuff, you have like a rampant sexual appetite. And everyone said she didn't have any signs of bipolar. But you know what those retard doctors are like? Got to get them on anything to get them on the medication, anything to prove their false degrees right, and that they will give you a mental health diagnosis within an inch of your life if they can. And they believed him. This is why I said if I was Prime Minister, I'd change the mental health rules, because these doctors and these hospitals, they're leeches, and they can't wait to get them in so they can get them on the medication and get them diagnosed and get their fake medical degrees accreditation, like, I know what I'm talking about, and look at me, I'm helping, and they're 100% misdiagnosing people. But in my case and in her case, they're misdiagnosing people based on the husband they're divorced from. None of these morons look and go, well, they're getting a divorce, they're divorced. Maybe he's got ulterior motives, but they don't. They just take their word for it, and nobody thinks, does he have an ulterior motive? Does she have an ulterior motive? And then they just come along and get these poor women locked up, and then they're labelled with these mental health diagnoses that aren't even real, because the husband is a narcissistic, sociopathic psycho who's setting the wife up to make them look like the victim, because they were planning for them to die. My ex wasn't expecting me to live. Him and everybody that he was in league with, they really, really thought they were going to end my life. But God saved me. God stepped in and told me exactly what to do, which is why she said in that dream, oh, hey, you do the Lord's work. You're the one that does the Lord's work. My investigations. She's talking about my investigations. So I'm just going to reiterate before I make my coffee. She said, what you're thinking is exactly right. And what I'm thinking is his father had something to do with what happened to her in that park. They need to look at the timing of when the call was made to when the fisherman heard the gunshot, because there's an inconsistency there. And they need to look at whether that phone call was AI generated. I think there's apps and stuff you can buy that can tell you when stuff's AI. And I think that's the line of inquiry that they need to go down. She took that gun for self-defense because she didn't trust who she was going to meet in that forest. She took it just in case. And there was a fight, and they took her phone and made that call. The second line of inquiry would be the tracking devices that she kept finding in her car. Look to see if they're the kind that have access to your mind, and they do exist, I promise you. Because my original thought was, did they use the tracking devices to get her to make that phone call? Like against her will, because they do that. It is a real thing. It was a Nikola Tesla invention. Donald Trump's uncle, when he worked for the FBI, stole the technology, and then they turned that all into stuff. So, with Sirhan and Mark David Chapman and all that, they were all under the MK Ultra mind control techniques and that came off the back of Nikola Tesla's invention. And then they've spent over 100 years experimenting on society. So, how you see these people getting in cars and running people over, and you see people running around beaches shooting people and that sort of thing. That's what they use that technology to get them to do those things. Oh, well, he was crazy. It's because they want to make you look crazy. It's what they tried to do with me, but they underestimated the power of God. They didn't realise that I was the trap to catch them all in, and that's exactly what happened yesterday with the Dartmoor thing. I caught them all, caught every single one of them in a lie so big, in an international conspiracy so big, it now can't be denied. And then what happened was Keir Starmer took something to the King last night expecting him to sign it, and the King said no, because I said to him after the Dartmoor thing, do not sign anything. Like when I put everything together, it's all there on my social media. I said, whatever it is he's about to bring you to sign, don't sign it. And don't sign anything to do with Dartmoor, anything to do with the lands, blah, blah, blah. Don't sign it. And I said, I was making spelling mistakes. And I said, I'm sorry for the spelling mistakes. I said, but I'm being told, get this out now because time is of the essence. Not knowing that Starmer was about to go to the King to present him with that digital ID bill. Because, I've been talking about all these ancient laws and the Bill of Rights and no taxation without representation dream and all that sort of thing. The King got Lord Sumpton, Lord Sumner, Lord Sumpton, I think she said his name was. He's like, he specialises in old laws, constitutional laws. And the King pulled out a whole pile of these laws to throw at Keir Starmer. And he said, I, in all good consciousness, cannot sign this bill. And Keir Starmer threatened the King. I'm not even joking. And like in the nick of time, I got that message to the King, don't sign anything. Remember, becoming spellbound, blah, blah, blah. And then Starmer took this bill to the King and the King didn't sign it. And not only did he not sign it, everything that I said about how he was going to get someone who was like a legal expert who knew old laws, he was going to bring him in. That's exactly what happened. So now we are not going to have forced digital IDs because the King stepped up and listened. He became the hero. Now people are looking at him and saying, oh my God, it's everything I said to the King. If you listen to me, people won't see you as the villain anymore. They'll start seeing you as the hero. You're meant to be the saviour in all of this. And he started to listen, and it's exactly what happened. And apparently Keir Starmer threatened the King and said, you're only the head of state. I'm the Prime Minister, blah, 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 not realising that the King can just say, right, that's it, you're done, you're out. Which is what I think is next, because he threatened the King. Apparently the people in the room gasped, like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that to the King. Basically telling the King, I'll do whatever I want with your country. You're just the King. You have no say in politics. It's like, well, then why are you bringing the bill to him to sign? And because I kept saying, because it's in Spellbound, I kept saying to the king, they want your seal. There's a ring or a seal, a royal seal or something you've got that they want, and when they've got it, that's the end of the monarchy. They're tearing it all down. Now you have to look at the digital IDs that he was trying to bring in was it's Palantir, who are the CIA, Trump, Hillary Clinton, all of that, and the king stepped up and said, nah. So, yeah, so, oh my God, so that's why I was so busy yesterday. I was just so busy from the second I woke up that I didn't record the first dream. I sat down and I started typing it, and then something popped up on my thing that needed my attention, which means it wasn't the right time. I was maybe meant to see that chapter video to figure out she was the one from the first dream. She was the one that was coming out from behind the stairs in the first dream. And then when I had the second dream, that's when I realised, that's who she is. The woman from my first dream ended up in my second dream was the one from that chapter that was uploaded last night. So I'm going to put a link in the description box below to the video so you can see that chapter video and what I found about the tracking devices and all of that. But if this message can get out to her family, and it's interesting that they cut my first recording of this off, because I was just about to start talking about the AI stuff. So, there's no such thing as coincidence, eh? They don't want people knowing what they do with this technology because nobody will buy into it. Keir Starmer's wife had a contract for digital ID. She has a digital ID company, as does Tony Blair's son and all that, and Palantir and all that, and they all thought that they were about to come in and start having control over the lives and minds of the British people, and the king said, nah. So that'll be why they cut my thing off, because they don't want people knowing this, because then nobody will buy the smartphones and the smartwatches and use Grok and all that. Because it's all smoke and mirrors. They want you to think that it's, you can make videos and that, but there's a darker, ulterior motive to it. And it's all to be able to have control of the masses when they want to be able to shut it all down. It only seems to affect people who have been vaccinated or who are prone to the Schumann resonance. The people that experience mental health issues and paranormal activity and all that, as I've explained before. So I'm going to go now. I'm going to make a coffee. I'm going to have a shower and all that. But if her family are watching, I've given you 2 lines of inquiry to go down. But go down the AI fake phone call first. And where his father was at the time she was shot, look at his phone records, because he had something to do with it. If he wasn't there himself, they need to look at who he placed there. He placed someone there he had something to do with, who met her in that forest, which is why she took the gun. So I shall speak to you later. I'm so proud of my king, because the war in Russia's going to end now, like it's all going to come crashing down. Just wait to hear news that Keir Starmer's been arrested, and then the king's going to dissolve Parliament. I'm so proud of it. I'm just so proud of the fact that he trusted me, and he got the right people involved. Apparently, when Keir Starmer, the king had like a huge report that he had written up, because he's a Scorpio. See, because I know him, he's a Scorpio rat, and who's twinned with Taurus, and we're very attention to detail. We don't put our name on anything until we are 100% certain that the details are correct and that the details are to our understanding. Like we're very, when it comes to attention to detail, and he threw this report to Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer didn't even read it, and it was basically citing all the laws that would be broken and all the moral and ethical responsibilities that the king had to watch over his people. And then that's when Keir Starmer threatened him. So our Prime Minister just threatened our king. So you wait, he's going to end up in handcuffs. It's what I've been saying all along. I just can't believe the king listened and got the man what knows his legal stuff well, ancient laws and all that, because that's exactly what he pulled up. Remember I was talking about like the Bill of Rights. Yeah, oh my God. So anyway, if you parents out there, I'm sorry that everything's all like, oh, but you have no idea what's been happening to me over the last, well, since Christmas Eve. It's just, oh my God. I've been doing investigation after investigation that has just fractaled into all sorts of different pathways, but I do is I have to follow the threads. And she came to me and she asked me to help her. So this is it. So I'm sorry that it sounds all over the place, but I was asleep like an hour ago. Yeah, I was asleep like, oh. So yeah, there you go. If you have any questions, you know where I am. I apologise, but you have no idea what it's like being a bounty hunter for God. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō.